Dr. Samson G. Simon is joining me right now. Doc, very good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, very exciting to also have you. I could recall when we spoke over the weekend, and all right, are you hearing me? So I said over the weekend when we spoke about this issue, I saw the excitement on you, and I also recall that you are so happy that at least Nigeria is coming out of the wood of the grey list. But let's start. For majority of our viewers who will be wondering, what is the grey list? What is FATF? How did you receive the weapon?
Well, FATF is Financial Action Task Force. It's a body created in 1989 by the G7 group of countries in France. The headquarters is in France. Is domiciled
what happened now?
At the organization mandate to tackle illicit financial flows, particularly around three main areas: terrorism financing, proliferation financing, and money laundering. Money laundering, basically. And it normally has these three categories of lists, right? Whether you're on the grey list, or normally you're white list, grey list, or black list. If you're on the white list, that means you have a clean bill of health. You don't have issues. There are no deficiencies in your AML CFT framework. That's anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism framework. Your system is okay, is up to par, and is reliable, is trustworthy. Then if you're on the grey list, the region where Nigeria came out of, that means there are some serious deficiencies with your framework. So Nigeria had those deficiencies, and this is the latest case. But some time ago, when Obasanjo was president in 2021, we were almost blacklisted. And that was what prompted the president then to create EFCC that we have today. And it's also because of their project, they have the National Financial Intelligence Unit in Nigeria, which led to the reforms that make Nigeria to be removed from the grey list. Then if you're in the black list, the grey list means you're under close monitoring, increased monitoring, because there are a lot of questionable activities around illicit financial flows going on within your territory. But if you're in the black list, that means like what we were almost some 24 years ago in 2001, and today is basically Iran and North Korea and maybe Myanmar, the third country that have been blacklisted. Those are the ones that are not really committed to, they are not cooperating with FATF, which is FATF, to ensure that any issues they have are tackled. So Nigeria had some issues, and FATF, Financial Action Task Force, which is the body now that's responsible for grading you and classifying you, whether you're whitelisted, grey-listed, or blacklisted, approached us and they did evaluation. Normally you have evaluation, something similar to peer review, where you look at how a country's financial system is and where the problems are. When they came in 2019, over the course of 2 years, 2019 to 2021, they realized that there were some fundamental problems. And they came up with a 19-point action plan for Nigeria to work on. And because of those issues that we had, in fact, the issues were so much, I think like 84 of them, but we were quickly able to resolve a lot of them. So they finally came up with the 19 that we needed to act on, and then they grey-listed us. That was in February 2023. And the authorities have assiduously been working to make sure that we exit this list because of the current consequences. It's going to do, it will definitely do incalculable damage to any nation any jurisdiction that is classified that way. And Nigeria, South Africa, Mozambique, and Burkina Faso were the 4 countries that were removed from the grey list when they met during their plenary session in October. I think on the 24th of October, that was when it was officially announced that these 4 countries have exited. But it's not yet a hurry, because they still have this 12-month observation period to make sure that the enforcement to achieve these desired results are being maintained, right? So that we can have a clean bill of health.
Exactly.
So it has a lot of benefits to Nigeria,
Doc,
for the Nigerian economy.
Doc, let me quickly come in here. Why I'm coming here is for our viewers. They'll be wondering, what is the burden of being on this FATF grey list? What are those burdens that, from your own understanding, has kept our economy, isolated in a way because we are under FATF grey list?
All right, because we were grey listed, it had consequences, amongst which any transactions coming from Nigeria would be flagged, particularly by financial bodies like SWIFT, which is arguably the biggest in the world, and virtually everybody would have to go through, right? Any transaction, and it will make investors and even banks to be skeptical about dealing with anything Nigeria. And then even for multilateral agencies like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, they look at that list too. If you are grey listed, for example, they give you more stringent conditions because it means there's something wrong, something fundamentally wrong with the way your financial system is. And then if Nigerians are to open bank account or to engage in cross-border transactions, they will have a lot of difficulties, a lot of delays, a lot of issues because Nigeria is grey listed. What the grey list is saying is that there's something fundamentally wrong about illicit financial activities within the jurisdiction of Nigeria or within the territory of Nigeria. Therefore, everybody that wants to engage in Nigeria should be skeptical because there are a lot of inherent risks involved. So that discouraged investors, that discouraged capital inflows, that really hampered the success of Nigeria to interact with a lot of countries around the world. Even if you look at the global investment index, for example, the JP Morgan Bull Index that Nigeria was removed from, it's one of the reasons is because of things like this. And if you are grey listed, for example, nobody will want to add you to such a reputable list, because by being grey listed, it shows that there are fundamental issues around compliance, around accountability, around integrity, financial integrity, that whatever is going on in your country might be a bit dodgy or a bit questionable.
Exactly. But let's quickly contextualize this in a way that many of our viewers can also understand it, because over the weekend, where I also had the opportunity to discuss this with one or two of my colleagues, the question that comes to mind is that what does this really have to do with the issue of 419, Yahoo boys, and the rest of them? Let's have your understanding on that.
Oh, Yahoo, as we call them in Nigeria, they're also part of it, but it's not just limited to them. Anything illicit, anything questionable, anything illegal, anything that is not transparent or is opaque, right, is questionable. If you're trying to engage in transaction that you're trying to launder money, you're trying to make somebody to not understand where that money is coming from, something questionable, you're trying to hide something, right? Or if you're trying to fund terrorism, and we know Nigeria has a lot of terrorist organizations, and these terrorist organizations work because they are funded. And then the proliferation financing too. All these things are a problem, particularly for terrorism financing and money laundering. And we have serious issues around that. For the proliferation financing, because we're not really involved in weapons of mass destruction, that might not really be an issue. But for those two most important aspects of FATF, right, we had weaknesses until when we came out of the grey list. So Yahoo fraudulent activities, computer scams that Nigerians engage in are also part of the problem, but it's not limited. Even government, people in government get involved in illicit financial activities, whether politicians or public or civil servants. So all those activities, particularly, for example, in Abuja, you have a lot of real estate property that people pay for cash, right? That's a bit questionable. And unless if you have this coordination amongst law enforcement and intelligence agencies in Nigeria, where they share intelligence and they try to detect and then investigate and prosecute all these activities, then a lot of people will be doing it and nobody will bring them to book. So we have a lot of those issues, and for the fact that we have been removed from the grey list, that doesn't mean that we have clean bill of health. So a lot of people also say, what about the results? They need the results to be translated. They have a point. Yes, it's not yet the guru. We still have some way to go.
Exactly. And talking about we still have a way to go, the white list should be the focus of the government right now. But for you, how can we achieve that? Going by, we have escaped the blacklist. We have also escaped the grey list. Now our target is the white list. How can we really get to that white list at this point in time, from your own perspective?
I think the trajectory has been set in motion. The ball has been has started rolling. But what we need is to maintain the trajectory and possibly improve on it. The reason why we got out of the grey list, if we maintain those reforms, right? If we keep enforcing them and keep maintaining them and keep making them to be more robust, right? We'll definitely be on the white list and would be one of the most attractive destinations for capital flows. Some of the things that the authorities did were the enactment and the enforcement of Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, and then Money Laundering Law, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, and then the operationalization of Beneficial Ownership Register. So everybody that is engaged in any transaction, the authorities need to know. And if any business is being started, you just don't only look at the fronts of those businesses. You need to know who are actually responsible for those businesses, so that you can track them, so that you detect if they're doing anything illegal or if they're engaging in anything illicit, right? If we maintain this trajectory and we keep coordination amongst all the bodies, whether it's EFCC, the ICPC, the Auditor General's Office, the Attorney General's Office, the National Financial Intelligence Unit, all these government agencies that are responsible for prosecuting and detecting and investigating illicit activities around the financial system of Nigeria, if they keep working together, keep sharing intelligence, keep enforcing their laws, and keep doing things in a very transparent, right way, then we expect that ultimately we'll be on the white list and maybe full membership of FETA.
Exactly.
But it's not going to. We're not going to have it on a platter. We need to earn it. We need to do everything that is required. And they have some recommendations. We need to make sure that we conform to all these recommendations.
Exactly. Interesting. Well, going forward into the discussion, some of the agencies of the government have been appraised and acknowledged to have been taking the fight of illicit financial flow. For instance, the central bank has been acknowledged that its latest reform of AML and CFL, that is anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing, CFL and AML, has been working strongly. But we cannot forget its partnership and collaboration with NFIU, that is Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. But what do you make of this reform from CBN in collaboration with other agencies of government, NFIU, the Attorney General Office, and the rest of them doing this remarkable work for Nigeria to exit the grey list of FATF?
Well, the central bank is an important component. Is arguably the most important, if you ask me, to a large extent, because it's responsible for money market. Is the apex bank, right? Is the regulator of Nigerian commercial, but not only commercial banks, but banking system, right? The money market, short-term lending, right? The central bank is responsible for that, and all activities that happen within the entity or the entities where the central bank has sway or holds sway, has control, is mainly the central bank that regulates that. So the central bank is very important. And if you look at the KYC of banks, it should normally take care of AML and CFT framework to ensure that anything questionable, anything that is suspicious is being flagged. Because if you don't do it, international bodies will do it, and that will come back to bite us as a country. So everything we have to do domestically to tackle our problems, to make sure that all the deficiencies around the framework, around money laundering and terrorism financing are eliminated completely, or if not completely eliminated, at least be brought down to the barest minimum, so that people have confidence in our financial system that whatever that is being done is largely trustworthy. So the central bank is an important component of that. If you ask me, it's a linchpin for us to succeed. It's not just limited to the enforcement agencies and the intelligence. Even the regulators, a very important part. Even SEC, for example, that is in charge of capital market. All of them are very important because they are the regulators. So it doesn't, if they regulate it, if they regulate the bodies under them, it will not even get to the point that you have to start detecting and start investigating, because you preempt some of these things, you prevent them. And I think the central bank is not doing badly in that regard, particularly under the current CBN governor. But they need to do more, because there's the biggest room is the room for improvement.
Exactly.
And as long as we are not whitelisted, as long as we don't have full membership of FETAF, that means we have some way to go.
Exactly. And interesting to this fact is to also acknowledge that National Assembly has also been mentioned to play a role, particularly the amendment of some of those laws. And a lot of analysts are also giving credit to National Assembly, particularly Senate President Godswill Akpabio, as well as the Speaker of the House, Abbas, for doing diligently when it comes to amendment of some of the rules and regulations that guide money laundering in Nigeria. What do you have to say about National Assembly role in ensuring that at least we get to this level at this point in time under Godswill Akpabio and Abbas?
Well, the National Assembly is also very important. Their responsibilities cannot be overemphasized, because the laws also are very important, because what the law enforcement agencies can do, or what the intelligence agencies can do, are only what that have been made into laws, and which is largely the responsibility of National Assembly, whether the Senate or the House of Reps, particularly the government at the center. So they need to amend laws. They need to make sure that certain laws are passed, right? That's their call. That's their responsibility. And I think they have been doing it. If you look at the 1995 decree for money laundering, it was repealed because it was not really effective to tackle modern challenges for the EFCC and so on to be created. In the same manner, the laws that were created after that were not really effective in subsequent challenges, because these challenges are evolving. New things keep coming up. Like now we're talking about AI, we're talking about virtual reality, we're talking about big data, and a lot of things. While they help with the life of people, they also come with their own challenges. And there is a need for laws to be new laws to be brought to bear, or even old laws to be amended, so that these new challenges are tackled. And I think the National Assembly and the president too played huge roles in ensuring that Nigeria ultimately is removed from this grey list. And I think the credit is not just limited to those people at the forefront of, like, the NFIU and the Auditor General and the Attorney General and so on. The president, without the backing and the full support of National Assembly and the president, these things wouldn't have come to fruition. Exactly. So they deserve a lot of credit, but they also need to know that we are not there yet, so they have to keep coming up with new laws. They have to keep amending all laws to take care of new challenges that spring up on a daily basis. Exactly. So it's something that keeps happening, and they have to keep to their tools to make sure that they are up to date and up to tax whatever the challenges might come.
Exactly. It's interesting. When we have praised and acknowledged the role of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu being the GCO and the President of Nigeria, as well as His Excellency Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, and Tajuddin Abbas, who happen to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives, we acknowledge all the activities. We also need to pinpoint it out that Nigerians also face a lot of rigorous engagement when it comes to getting this done. Just like you mentioned earlier, the KYC at the bank level, as well as everybody that wants to involve in financial activity at the bank, was subject to one rules or regulation or the other. It was inconvenient, I would say. Doc, you will acknowledge, also agree with me that as we get to this point, it wasn't just done by the fiat of the federal government, the political leaders, but Nigerians also play a role. Because if you go to any bank in Nigeria today, you want to open any bank account, it's not easy at all, because you have to fill in some forms, point out so many details about yourself before it is done. So, but what do you have to say to Nigerians at this point in time that we have achieved being exiting the grey list?
Well, Nigerians too played their own part. They did their own bit. How exactly? They may not be the people executing some of these reforms, but these reforms were executed on us. And like you rightly mentioned, things became a bit tougher because you need to fill a lot of forms, you need to you need a lot of documents when opening bank accounts, when making large enrichment in your banks, when opening accounts across the world. So all these things are part of the process, and Nigerians bore the brunt of it when it was being implemented, and it's still being implemented now. We're still bearing the brunt of it. So the truth is, Nigerians also contributed, because it was through us that things got done, and we bore a larger chunk of the responsibility because it was applied on us, and we also bore it without complaining. So Nigerians also contributed; they did their own part largely, and the success, while our leaders have to be commended for making that possible, we too deserve some accolades for playing our own part.
Exactly. And Doc, the reason why I put that question to you was that I've had encounter with different people who come that they had a particular amount of money paid into their account, but they cannot withdraw it. But many Nigerians at that point in time didn't understand that there is something that Nigerian as a whole is following on a global perspective. Having said, as we round up right now, for you, where do you see FATF going in the next 10 years? Because although it's a 40-member country, and Nigeria is also looking forward to join them as a member. But what do you see? Where do you see FATF in the next 10 years?
Well, I think the importance cannot be overemphasized. And we need them to give us a clean bill of health, so that we'll be able to attract foreign direct investment, which has eluded us. So we need them, and their peer review, their evaluation, which is routine. We need to make sure that we meet up with all their recommendations, whether the 40 recommendations or the 9 special recommendations around money laundering, around terrorism financing, around proliferation financing. We have to make sure that we meet up with everything. We're not doing the organization for tough a favor by ensuring that we conform to the standards that they have set. We're doing ourselves a favor. How are we doing ourselves a favor? Because if they give us a clean bill of health, we will be more acceptable to the IMF, to the World Bank, to investors around the world, and it will make our trade with our international trade more seamless. It will make international payments for us easier. It will reduce delays. It will reduce some of these challenges that Nigerians encounter. And even for foreign remittances, for diaspora remittances,
exactly.
If we have this clean bill of health from them, it will be quite easy. It will be quite seamless for those of us that have relatives abroad. So a lot of benefits that will accrue to us if we meet them. So we see the organization FATF and Nigeria the relationship becoming stronger, the bond becoming stronger, and that we get full membership so that we enjoy all the benefits that come with being a full member.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Samson Simon, for coming on the show. And I will say here that your submissions are quite instructive, and you simplified it in a way that I believe that many of our viewers must have grasped or understand what we are talking about when it comes to Nigeria being removed from the Financial Task Force grey list. Having shifted away from blacklist some years ago, now we are no more on the grey list, but the white list is our target. We just wish we can be there soon. So, Doc, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I've been speaking with Dr. Samson G. Simon happens to be the chief economist at ARKK Economic Data Limited here in Abuja. And for him, the white list is so serious, but we must put our hands on deck so that we can get to that level. And I believe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives, they are all doing Tajudeen Abbas, they are doing all their bit to ensure that we get there. And just like Doc said, we must continue to review our laws because those laws enable us to achieve and come out of the grey list. But the white list is still much our target. We'll get there.